Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Simplicity TV and Cut the BS Wednesdays. I am Jenn Pike, your host, and I am joined by one of our favorite guests, Dr. Laura Foster, who is also a very close friend of mine, and we have the opportunity to have a lot of great discussions about common issues, healthy issues and not so healthy issues that happen with people, mainly little people in their lives. So thank you again for coming back on the show.
Thank you.
So what I wanted to talk today about was a really common email question that I get, and something that I just see floating around, Facebook and different pages, which is about ear infections. Really common issue to happen. Mainly we see it in children.
Right.
But there are a lot of different ways that we can be looking at what ear infections are trying to tell us about our body, and more importantly, how to treat and support them instead of just going and getting an antibiotic, which we know in our industry typically doesn't create a fantastic outcome. Or at least not for the long term. So I know for you in your practice that this is probably, would you say, one of the most common childhood?
I don't have a lot of kids under care, quite frankly, that get ear infections.
Right.
But I definitely have people who start care because of ear infections. Like in Canada, I would say our number one treatment option around ear infections ends up being, as you just said, antibiotics.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, the Ontario College of Physicians and Surgeons are trying to convince their own doctors and the public to stop giving antibiotics. I mean, for various reasons. I mean, we know that it wreaks havoc on our gut flora, which in the long term and short term is a huge issue. But the rebound effect of ear infections when you continue to give antibiotics is they get an ear infection, 4 weeks later they get an ear infection, 6 weeks later they get an ear infection. So it's not what the body's requiring. It's not taking care of the problem, it's just covering up.
And you see this cycle where you see and hear from parents who go through exactly what you described, and then that the conversation about tubes in the ears or removing the adenoids and those types of things are going to come up, which is invasive for the child, scary for the family and for the parents as well too.
Right.
And so that's just it. The parents they're looking for other options, and they're looking for another opinion and a voice of reason. So what's your typical approach to helping a family deal with ear infections?
Well, I'm a chiropractor and I work a lot with families.
Yeah.
So my obvious place always is to start with the spine and nervous system. So when children are little, their eustachian tubes that drains out of the ears are more horizontal. And so they're heavily influenced by how patent or open those eustachian tubes are. And that is really controlled by all those smooth muscle and linings along the eustachian tube, which is controlled by the nerves of the neck and the cranial nerves. So sometimes what I'll see is when I'm doing an exam on a child that if they have some level of imbalance in their upper cervical spine in their neck, and that imbalance is creating an irritation or an interference to the nerves that go to the ear, that we'll often see that there's increased incidence of ear infections. So in Canada, it's maybe not so common, but in other parts of the world, especially Australia and so on, if someone has an ear infection, it's such a common thing to just automatically think, I'm going to take my kid to the chiropractor. Right? So, we train our practice members that, whenever you feel your immunity's low in general, but especially if you're getting indications of an ear infection, discomfort, anything that you see, bring your child in and let us check them and let's clear them so that their ear can drain better. Because really that's just the issue. And augment their nervous system so that their immune system's working better. That's kind of where I would, of course, start. And then there's, as you know, a whole host of other things that we can be doing lifestyle oriented.
So let's talk more about those, because that is also important. So I think we could probably agree on like the number 1, 2, and 3 things that we should be doing. You hit on a big one, which is talking about the gut and the flora, our whole microbiome, which is that ecosystem, an immune system that lives within us. One of the foundational things we can do to support that is to take a good quality daily probiotic. I know you even carry really great quality ones.
We do,
right there in the office.
Just so many people don't use it, and it's just a foundational piece. It's just important.
And most people, when they hear probiotic, associate that with consuming the second thing which we talk about getting rid of, which is dairy and using yogurt. Right, as their source of that. So, for viewers who've been following me and you, they know that we talk a lot about not consuming dairy. What's the big connection with dairy to ear infections?
It's the congestive tone. It's just mucus forming.
Okay.
So, you have that horizontally slanted eustachian tube, and you're now full of, you know, dairy, and it's mucus forming.
So the fluid sitting there,
yeah.
it's accumulating, and now you've got the perfect opportunity for a virus or bacteria to start in it.
That's correct. So you have that going on, then your child is, you know, put in contact with viruses and bacteria, which we all are all the time.
Right.
And now they're, you know, lowered immunity. It's just a perfect breeding ground. So we call that a perfect storm for that.
Yes.
So that's the big thing. And the other thing I would say is sugar.
Yeah,
right?
third one right there is exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it's building the foundation with the probiotics,
Right.
taking out the dairy and watching how much sugar's coming in. Sugar is such an interesting thing because we think that if we're not having chocolate bars and cookies and cake and donuts that we're doing okay.
Right.
But it's the hidden sources of sugar, or even some of the natural sources of sugar. It's the repetitious timing of having it, the amount, you know.
I think that well-intentioned parents don't recognize how many grams of sugar their child's getting in a day. You know, everything from like ketchup to, you know, just all those sort of bready type products that we
And
have
cereals
a
and
tendency to give our
crackers,
kids a lot.
the air snacks.
Yeah.
Listen, and don't
I've
get me
done it
wrong,
too.
we talk about this all the time. I mean, we have very holistic mindsets and we have very clean homes, but we still get into it where it's like, how many air snacks have your children had today? Like, they keep going for the crackers. They want to have an Ezekiel English muffin. Yes, it's gluten-free bread, not the Ezekiel, but other stuff, but they're still reaching for it. At the end of the day, it all still breaks down into a source of sugar.
And same as fruit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think we're the only household around, other than maybe your household, where I'm like, okay, how many pieces of fruit have you had today?
Truly. I've talked about this in an episode before where I have to actually, the kids will eat us out of house and home for apples and pears and bananas and that. So we really sometimes
Too much
actually have to
fructose.
hide it. It is. But that's what they're craving. And the more that they have it, the more they're going to want it.
Yes.
So it's hard for parents. They will oftentimes say, it's their favorite thing. I can't take it away from them. That's usually your cue that that's where you kind of need to start on pulling it in.
Those things alone make a huge difference.
Yeah.
You can also be, once you have an ear infection and the child has the pain and so on, then you want to be also looking, in addition to getting checked and adjusted, you want to be looking at your homeopathic sources.
Yeah.
And then even things like, I know we've used the garlic oil.
Huge. The St. Francis, we'll make sure to have a graphic and picture of it. The St. Francis garlic ear oil, you put a couple of drops in their ear. A warm compress over top is also really nice to kind of, not, I don't want to say cook it, but to warm it up in there to do its job. And then we're also both lovers of essential oils.
Yes.
So that's another great way to support overall the nervous system and the body for that.
And Smart Medicine for a Healthier Child is a great resource.
Oh my gosh, it's like the Bible. If I will also put a graphic up and a link to that. It's such a great book if you don't have that. It's my gift to every new mom that I know. You will use it for forever for that. So
And right in there, there's a whole host of things that you can be doing. So there's lots you can be doing where you don't have to revert back to, you know, constantly using antibiotics, and just start peeling back the layers, right?
Yeah.
So get your child through the ear infection, and then if you notice that's an ongoing issue, then just start looking at lifestyle-oriented things. What's going on? Is the child getting enough sleep? Is their immunity being supported properly? And you know, can you be taking dairy out of the diet? Because it's just not required.
Yeah. And this is where you want to, and we'll leave it on this final note, is this is where you want to think about building up your parental toolbox of the right people and connections. So your chiropractor, your nutritionist, your naturopath, your homeopath, just, you know, all of these other supportive, you know, people and elements in your life so that you have different resources when something is out of balance, because it's going to happen. It's not unhealthy when we get sick. It's about our resiliency to come back from that sickness.
That's it, exactly.
For that. So yeah, awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. If your ear is bothering you right now, you have tons of solutions right here at the tip of your fingers to start to implement. More simplicity and more ease in all that you do. It can be that simple. Have a fantastic day.